Hey there, audience. It's Brian Castle, host of the StartupStage podcast. And we're back with an episode, our first episode to feature one of our founders, Ellen Murphy of Sona. I'm excited for you to meet Ellen. Ellen and I have been fast old friends for about 60 days. And I've come to know her as an entrepreneur with real purpose. I told you, Ellen, when we first met, the way you speak about your very much for-profit business that you've launched over the last few years. You speak about it more like a social impact founder. And I think you have one of the very special things you have going for you is you operate from a space of empathy and sympathy. You're in the technology space, specifically health tech. The people you serve are expectant families, expectant moms, but also the people that provide care for them. And you have tremendous empathy for the caregivers. And as a two-time mom yourself, you have no trouble lending your sympathy to the moms and families that are enjoying Sona. So I can keep talking all day about you, but that would do you a disservice because I've got you right here. Tell us about your journey in developing Sona, which is an incredibly disruptive technology addition to the ultrasound space.
First of all, Brian, thank you so much for having me on. We are old, fast friends for sure. But yeah, I've spent the last over 10 years working in the ultrasound industry, business development, so not on the clinical side. But I've seen in the past over 10 years how far ultrasound has come in terms of technological advancements. With 3D images today, parents can almost see what their baby will look like before they're born. But what has not come far is the way that parents are receiving their ultrasound images. So parents today leave the ultrasound with the same thermal printouts that parents back in the 1980s were receiving. There has not been any advancements there. So this was built within kind of like the ultrasound environment that I was working in, and it's kind of a side project, and rolled it out in a bunch of offices with patients. The offices loved it, the patients loved it, but I kind of thought, like, this is no brainer. Someone else is going to do this. It took me getting pregnant in 2021 and experiencing it firsthand to realize what a game changer it was. Pregnancy, it's fleeting. You don't get that pregnancy back, and to miss out on the opportunity to have these digital images and videos. It was my goal to get this into every hand of expectant parents, into the hands of expectant parents. So let me back up a bit. What is Sona? We built HIPAA compliant technology that allows ultrasound images and videos to go straight from the ultrasound machine to a mobile app for expectant parents, where they can see their baby and where they can invite family and friends to join the app to follow along in their journey, or they can share via email, text, or social. So we've made it very, very easy for the offices to use. It's free for offices to use, and the images and videos are free for patients to use as well. So I think that's where Brian talks about the social impact. It really truly is my mission to make this widely accessible, and I don't feel like there should be any budgetary constraints for people, for either the doctor's office or the patients. So yeah, fast forward to today, I took the technology after I got pregnant, experienced it, realized it needed to be completely redone, not only to make it was HIPAA compliant to begin with, but we've made it even more secure, more seamless. We got rid of those little bugs that would come up every once in a while. And now we've launched nationally. So we're excited to get this out there.
So thank you for all that. So in our conversations, you've revealed this tremendous, what I would label as an observer, a level of care in the development of this app. You just came out of beta, 34,000 and counting users at time of this recording, right?
Correct. Over that now. So yeah, we had a pretty big pilot with that ultrasound company that I was working in, and had about a dozen offices using our technology, from big hospitals to mid to large OB offices, OBGYN offices, to small independent practices. And through that pilot, we have over 35,000 users and over 85,000 ultrasounds that have come through the platform. Last month, we launched nationally. So now we're going outside of our pilot bubble, and we've signed up like a dozen other accounts, and we're just growing from there.
So that journey you're talking about, I wanted to know, like, with that level of care you took in the development, and you had some big realizations, and you were having your own baby. What have been some of the greatest successes and challenges? Because I don't feel like people appreciate enough how hard you have to freaking work and the level of intelligence and creative problem solving to get something like this to market. I'm fascinated by it. And just getting to market is a huge victory, right? Can you tell us, like, what were some of the best, successes, and maybe some of the worst hills you had to climb along the way?
The huge success is hearing, all different types of groups love it. Hearing the story from parents that were able to share with their family that lived in another state, that were able to have these, reach out and say, I don't know what I would do without Sona during my pregnancy. We love to get that feedback because I can relate firsthand, and it means so much to me. So that in and of itself, every single parent that we bring on board is a huge success. Challenges, where do I start? Technology is never easy. It's, my tech team says, it's peeling back the layers. Like, you think you have a solution, and then you find something else that's wrong that you have to fix. So things take way more than double the amount of time that's predicted. So everything takes longer. I think I've been very lucky to not only be very intimate with the ultrasound environment, but have access to many different office settings, many different types of ultrasound machines. I've been able to test this on every different setting that you can imagine with every different machine. And I've been able to have great relationships with the sonographers, the people doing the ultrasound scans. And we've, it wasn't great the first round of it, but we've made it so it fits right into their workflow. So we've wanted to make it not only a no-brainer for the sonographers to want to offer patients, but they almost are excited to offer it to their patients for a couple of reasons. A great bedside manner. I can give you digital copies of your images today, your images and videos. Patients love that. But it's also, patients love to take out their phones and record the screen, which is a HIPAA violation because there's patient data on the screen. They may be recording something that the doctor's not even going to see because the doctor only sees the stills or the clips that get sent by the sonographer. So that's a violation. And the sonographers really don't want to be filmed. So it's an easy way for them to say, put your phone away, stop recording. That's why we have Sona. It's been great to get buy-in from the sonographers. And then in terms of the practices, whether it be the practice managers or the doctors, I mean, they tell us patients come in asking for it, which is awesome. So if they bring us into their office, it just provides great patient experience for their office at no added cost. Figuring this whole thing out has taken a while, but I think we're in a great place right now. And I think the amount of time it's taken has been for a reason, so that we actually know kind of what people want and how we can get buy-in from all the different types of people.
So something you just said, you didn't say it exactly this way, but when you say things and people hear something else in their heads, is you kind of trusted that journey and that process to get this thing where it needed to be. That's kind of, again, driven by that deep well of sympathy and empathy you have. So let's talk about the empathy first. Like, you're really dialed in to what your clinics need, the needs that your sonographers have, thinking about the obstetricians, thinking about the practice managers. Healthcare has gotten really complicated, over the last, it keeps consolidating in a lot of ways where it's not a lot of one or two or five obstetricians get together and have a practice, where you're dealing with these massive, like, practice groups and stuff that's affiliated with giant health systems. Have you found in your conversations, you have to, that the more complicated things get and the more economics of healthcare kind of drives all of that? Have you found that there's a group of people who are kind of doubling back and going, oh, it's about the patients. Let's make sure we're competing for them?
Definitely. I think right now in the healthcare environment that we're in, there's such a shortage of healthcare workers. So there's a huge shortage of sonographers, huge shortage. I think it's like 9,000 OBGYNs. So because there's a shortage, they're working all the time. They have to see so many patients in a certain amount of time. They can't, they can't necessarily give the one-on-one care that they probably want to give. But at the same time, ACOG and the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology just came out and said, they're promoting the reason for personalized healthcare for pregnant women and women's health, because personalized healthcare equal better outcomes. How can doctors provide personalized healthcare or provide this, extra patient satisfaction when they're so busy and they're part of this bigger conglomerate, and they might need buy-in from, a bigger group. So that was another huge consideration for us too. So we didn't want to make Sona, something that had to go through very levels of budgetary approvals, IT approvals, integration. So that's a huge reason we've made it free for offices to use. It's a way for offices in such a busy setting to add this extra patient satisfaction, especially if the doctors can't give that one-on-one, if it's a low-risk pregnancy and they have to spend more time with the high-risk pregnancy or the high-risk patients. It's a way for them to have something in their practice that's a little bit extra, a little bit more in terms of patient experience. And then in terms of the integrations and buy-in, we've made it so easy for these offices to use, not only because it's free, but all it takes is a simple software download on a computer in their office, and they can be up and running in 5 minutes or less. There's no integration needed. There could be a little bit of IT support in terms of they might just need a password from the IT person to download the software. But other than that, it's really simple. So what we've found is we've gone into some really big healthcare systems because the doctors push for it in their office. And even if offices are part of bigger healthcare systems, they're in their own office, a smaller office. As long as the office has buy-in, we can work on a one-off basis with those. So it's been a bit easier for us because we're free, because there's no integration, to kind of break through the healthcare setting.
So let's talk a little bit about the main beneficiaries of Sona, and to me, that's not only the moms and the extended families of the expectant moms, but also the people who are most intimately involved in their care, which is the sonographers. I've always kind of thought we grew our family through adoption, so I don't know anything about that feeling of getting the ultrasound images live in an office on that great thermal paper or otherwise. But I had always kind of just thought about it kind of myopically, about kind of like the most recent application in my own family. A very dear niece announced at Christmas that she was pregnant with the child who would be the first great grandchild, and she pulled that thermal paper out and was showing her grandmother. And it was a really special, tearful moment. But one of the main reasons Sona is such a consequential product, if you will, is for every several of those, there's a family that's going through high risk situations. And then there's also some that where the pregnancy has some tragic outcomes. And I've experienced all of that with different people in my family. Tell us kind of your thought process and your relational efforts you've done to make sure that you're amplifying the joy of those very successful, feels like a weird word to use, but when things happen the way we think they should, versus all the way to people that have the more tragic outcomes.
Yeah, for sure. I think ultrasound is as exciting as it is and as memorable as it is. It's very common to have anxiety leading up to the ultrasound because you never know what you'll find. And there could be a lot of tragedy that comes with it. I did IVF for my babies. So that first heartbeat ultrasound, the amount of anxiety and then the amount of joy, I don't think like anything compares to the emotional roller coaster that you feel while you're on the ultrasound bed in those early days. When the result is, isn't the outcome that we want. There are groups of people that ultrasound is the only time, or the pregnancy is the only time that they'll spend with their baby. We had a sonographer tell us recently that these parents in their 40s tried so hard to conceive, finally got pregnant, and by week 12, I think week 12, they knew that the baby wasn't going to survive long after the birth. And so the sonographer with these patients spent extra time on the ultrasound with them, and the parents loved it because they said, this is all the time we have with our baby until the baby's born. It's emotional moments like that. It's the sonographers taking the time to, get those pictures beyond just the medical, the diagnostic measurements that they need, but really get the pictures that parents will have forever. And spending the time, if the outcome isn't great, the sonographer really understanding, where to go, like whether they want the extra pictures, whether they don't. So on the happier note, if the outcome is successful, even if it's high risk but successful, they'll probably get more ultrasounds, and it's they'll be able to kind of keep those memories forever, whether it be a stressful time or a happy time. The amount of parents I've heard with we love, you said your niece presented you guys with the thermal printouts, which is awesome. Like the thermal printouts, they're great. Hopefully one day we call them nostalgic if Sona, once we can digitize them more. But I think that the thermal printouts are great, that it's a physical copy, but they just don't last. Like the amount of parents I've heard say that they've tried to laminate thermal printouts only for them to melt because thermal paper melts under heat. And then those memories are gone forever. So, yeah. So I think what we're trying to do is just make sure that whatever parents want to capture, whether it be no memories at all or whether this is their only memory, we want that memory to be present forever and not just something that might fade over time.
Before we wrap up, this is one of my favorite questions to ask entrepreneurs. I am one, and every entrepreneur has kind of a longer term vision for where they're taking their company. And it would be okay for you to say, oh, I did my 40-year disruption of this space. I'm cool. But I know you're a thinking person and you're already thinking about what's next. And what is next? Can you share a little bit about your vision for the company?
Yeah, I think ultimately we want to make, pregnancy a more connected experience. People right now are connecting, which is great, on social media, and they're relating to other moms going through it on social media. But if we could make the time during pregnancy more connected while you're in it, make it easier to share in the joys, make it easier to possibly, not share in the tragedies, but feel supported through good times and bad. Personalizing that is ultimately our goal. So building out the experience around that support, that connection, personalization is our goal. In the short term, we want our technology to get out to as many offices as we can. There's so much more we can do in terms of the experience and what we build on top of that.
I think maybe we ought to revisit your messaging and just say it's all about love and connection, because it kind of is, right?
It is. Yeah.
And then again, this is an audience I think I made good and cashed the check as far as previewing how Ellen talks about her venture like a social impact founder, because you really do never lose sight of who you're doing this for. And I think that's so admirable. And I think it's all also just from the common denominators of success I've observed, the entrepreneurs who succeed and do so pretty wildly never, ever, ever think about themselves. It's all the time about what are they doing for their customers or clients. So, last question. You came to a startup stage recently, and you've had, you know, a well-traveled road as an entrepreneur, a lot of bootstrapping. You've done the accelerator. Your route is not, in some ways, is not uncommon with a lot of tech founders. What attracted you to Startup Stage?
I have been reading Startup Stage's newsletter for the last couple of years, and I got one of the newsletters I love the newsletter. One newsletter came to me at an interesting time, like a few months ago, where it said, "Are you seeking funding? We might be able to help," something like that. So I submitted an inquiry because, kind of at a fork in the road, I've been bootstrapping this, thinking about fundraising, wondering if we should, go to market, get some good traction first, and reached out to see what they thought. And I met Jeremy, and he was amazing. He's like really like a co-founder. He introduced me to amazing people, Brian, you being one of them. Through my experience, it has been a game changer. This fork in the road became no longer a fork in the road, and now we have a clear direction. So I think the hardest part for me at Sona has been how to monetize. I feel very strongly about not charging the healthcare providers, and I feel very strongly about giving patients access to their images and videos for free. So how do we make money? One of the fractional executives that I was introduced to brought up this amazing idea, and we're rolling with it. And I'll tell you what the idea is. So we will be, instead of charging those two groups, we will be partnering with baby brands, pregnancy brands. This fall or the end of the summer, we're rolling out a 12-month partnership with 12 brands of category exclusivity, top brands in the baby space, where they will give us a perk to offer our premium users. So that perk will allow our premium users to get over $300 worth of value for a fraction of the cost. But not only that, we're able to work with these brands to give them such visibility throughout the entire pregnancy journey and deliver so much more than if they just paid, for a one-time email send or Facebook ads. We are targeting their exact demographic, but also at the same time offering our users stuff of value that they can use with these brands, a gift certificate or a discount. So it's a win-win-win for everyone. So once we figure that out, it's been, now we have a clear path in terms of how we will make money, at least for the next year. And that in of itself has made Startup Stage so worth it. But other than that, all the other fractional people that I've met, it's been a game changer in what we're doing day to day as a business.
Well, I love hearing that because I was one of the fractionals that came later to the table.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to hear about, how transformative things happen. And because by the time you got to me, you're just throwing out your genius roadmap.
Right. Yeah.
And it was basically one iteration right before we met. But it's one of those ideas where you and I talked about this. Like, used to be everybody would put classified ads in a newspaper or buy ads in a Sunday paper or a circular, and then digital came along. And what's happened to newspapers and magazine circulation, because it's more
Yeah.
trackable. And then, but it's always like, well, whose eyeballs are on there?
Right.
And you're able to say, I've got this community of people who are gonna need your stuff. Some of it right here, some of them right here. And so there's like this timeliness
Yeah.
factor also that nobody else. I
Yeah.
just think it's tremendous. So it's a tremendous value proposition to those brand partners, right?
Right.
Where you can be just as dialed into what they need as you are the other
Yeah, and
people.
we're not just picking any brands. I have my youngest is almost 1, so I've just been through like the early baby stages. I have a 3-year-old toddler. I've been through the pregnancy. We're being selective. We're going after the brands that we think will be of most use to our moms, and so it's pretty exciting. It's Yeah,
You're offering category exclusivity,
correct.
right?
Yes,
Which is
it's
huge.
huge for the brands. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I know people are going to enjoy meeting you this way as much as I have over the last several weeks. And I think this is a great story to be told to whoever wants to listen to great
Well,
stories.
thank you so much, Brian. It's been fun getting to know you too, and you've been doing amazing work. So I feel very lucky.
Thank you. I think this is going to be as big as you want to take it.
I want to take it big, so I hope so.
Well, thank you
Thank
again,
you so
Ellen.
much, Brian.